Hey, this is Chris, Liege of Games. I don't talk about dexterity games much on this channel, but I have a fair number of dexterity games. A few that are of my favorite. We have Clask. We have 4-player Clask. We have Tumbling Dice. We have Flick of Faith. I have Crokinole. I like dexterity games. So when the opportunity to check out Floating Floors came my way from Stella, I mean, if you don't know who I'm talking about, Stella from Meeple U, Dice Tower contributor, that side of things. Also now, working with Guff Studios, they're putting out one of their first games. It's called Floating Floors. And when they put a call out there and said, hey, who's interested? I said, me! Because, again, see, point number one, I like dexterity games. So what is this game? Floating Floors. What does that mean? It can't possibly mean ninjas. Ninjas. Do I have your attention now? Ninjas. You're a freaking ninja. With a dexterity component? You intrigued yet? Well, let me tell you 5 things that you need to know about this game, because otherwise it's going to be all stealthy on you, and you're going to be surprised by how good it actually is. So, point number one. When we talk about dexterity games, when you talk about most of those dexterity games that I listed out, when I talk of Flick of Faith, when I talk of Crokinole, when I talk of Clask, especially Clask 4 or Tumbling Dice, those are big, massive games. Big! This is a very small box, folks. Very small box. And this box is probably still about twice as big as it needs to be for all of the components that are in there. And that's sort of the nice thing about it in the first place. The dexterity is not this big, massive, you need a bunch of table space, you need a bunch of overhead, you need a big, big component that's going to cost you $300 for a nice Crokinole board, or Tumbling Dice for $75, or whatever else it may be. These are small pieces, but therein lies the difficulty, because it's taking more of the animal upon animal approach, which, again, hear me out, is a highly, highly, highly underrated game, because of the skill that actually is needed from a dexterity stacking standpoint. Which leads me into point number 2. This game, although you may think this is very simple, very straightforward, you're just putting the pieces on the terrains, putting a floorboard on there, and then moving your little ninja across. Let me be very clear. I thought that as well when I first started playing this. And then, as the game develops, the nuance shines through. What do I mean? Well, there's only so many limited numbers of pieces of black and white. So after you start running out, after the game starts progressively getting longer, and I don't mean long, but I mean longer, you're getting into the throes of it, you start running out of pieces to take from the supply, and you have to start taking pieces from the board that are either balancing on the top of the floors or balancing underneath the floors, keeping them from falling over in the first place, causing you to get a penalty. And it doesn't matter if you cause your ninja to fall, or somebody else's ninja to fall, or your color piece to fall, or their color piece to fall. If you cause it to fall, you take a penalty. And the other person gets to rearrange things however they want. And believe me when I say that, it's sort of sounds silly, but it's a big deal, and it's a game decider. And that's the level of nuance that comes somehow, surprisingly, in this small package. Point number 3 that I have to tie in as well to point number 2, because it just is another layer. Haha, see what I did there? Layer upon layer with this is difficult. This is Hyperspace Kraken difficult, folks. Again, because these pieces are so small, therein lies the more delicate touch. And if you're like me and you have these shaky hands kind of trying to do it and maneuver across the top of these very tiny pieces with your very tiny ninja, okay, maybe, okay, I can do that, put 1 or 2 next to each other, no big deal, right? Then therein comes the difficult part, is you have to twist these tiles 90 degrees in a way oriented by the jutsu that you are trying to claim in order to get it in the first place without anything falling off. And it's incredibly difficult, tense, dynamic, and game-changing, because all of a sudden you have a clear path to 1, to 2, to another, and then you drop it, and the other person gets to rearrange it however they want without any worry of what it does and where it goes, because you can't cross unless you have a piece of your color on the opposite floorboard. Otherwise, it becomes impassable, and again, you have to change your whole game plan on where you're going to get those pieces from. So, I'm not speaking out of frustration. I'm speaking out of pleasant frustration there, because also speaking from experience. Point 4, and it sort of goes along with the other points I've already mentioned, this actually requires a lot of fine motor dexterity. A lot of these other games that I mentioned, Flick of Faith, Crokinole, Tumble and Dice, we don't think of those as like super fine motor. We think of them as fine motor in terms of like overall life, but we don't think of them as fine motor in terms of like, you know, miniature painting or that sort of thing. And this is more of the fine motor, which we don't have a lot of games that do that side of things. I have a card game called Hictaroon, and that uses a similar mechanism of fine motor where you're drawing a card out of a deck of cards that's stacked on end. And so if the whole thing falls over, you lose, or you take a penalty essentially. But we don't have anything else like this that's as much fine motor, which again is sort of refreshing. All of the other things are big, like even the animal upon animal balance bridge that I have back there, my German Grail game that I picked up. I mean, the pieces are, you know, they're this big. And again, it's easier with these larger pieces, which again goes to my point of the smaller is adding to the difficulty. And it's giving you a lot of dexterity in the actual dexterity game that is solely dependent on you. And one last point is, if you're like me, you don't remember what pieces are under the floorboard once you put the floorboard down. Oh, geez, I only put down 3 of the 4 corners on this floorboard. Which one was it? I'm trying to look. Which one was it? I can't tell. Oh, crud. Oh, yeah, I found out when the whole thing tilted because I put it on the wrong corner. Rewards a little bit of this, too. Some tactical nature, but also being a little bit strategic in the same way. Now, point 5, going back all the way to point 1. This isn't like the other crowdfunding things that we're used to seeing. Because of those points, especially with the fine in the fine motor and the small in the dexterity side of things, like I said at the beginning, this box could probably be about half this size, which also makes it quite portable, which also makes this playable almost anywhere. And it's sometimes nice not to have something that's completely overproduced, because if you're like me and you're looking at the crowdfunding side of things, you're looking at it and going, oh, geez, the prices are getting jacked up and jacked up and jacked up. And this is one where it doesn't need to be. And it's nice in the minimalistic simplicity that gives it more elegance. And it's nice to have things like that, because I love things that are more portable in that sense, like Pocket Hive, like Zertz, the abstract game, or even Tak with a cloth board that I picked up. You can bring those and play those anywhere. And dexterity anywhere? Party game, anyone? Especially since it plays really well at 2, but also 4-player. Did I mention there is a varying degree of difficulty that you can handicap yourself with if you're playing against someone else who has less fine-tuned fine motor skills than you? There is that too. There you go. Those are the 5 things that you need to know about floating floors, and why I think this is a fantastic addition to the dexterity genre, because I've never played anything like it, and it's fun. And that's really ultimately the best thing about it, right? That's why we play. So, there you go. All the things I think you need to know. If any questions, let me know in the comment section. I'm always happy to let you know what I think as well. Stay classy. See you around. Have a great day. Man, my hand was shaking so much when I was doing it just by myself, let alone when I was trying to do it for the camera. Just like sitting there, my ninja, even the easy ninja is like, It's fun, I'm not good at it.